Yo, and hello, everybody. Welcome to another awesome, thought provoking episode of Hobby Think Tank. I'm Mike. That's my hobby BFF, John. What's up, John?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
It's weird to see you with the handheld mic. This is like, I'm like, okay, I don't feel good enough.
It keeps me from unplugging other stuff. I'm notorious for in the middle of my recordings. My hands wander over to connectors and stuff gets unplugged. So this is good.
Well,
Good
that
for
will
me.
be good. We have a lot to cover in this episode. We want to keep it as tight to 30 minutes, but we have a lot to cover. Whatever. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this because I get a lot of questions and on various platforms that people ask me about tracking. How do you track everything and all this? And even for a guy like me that is as anal as I know of anybody about tracking my collection, I still goof. Like yesterday, I got a card, 1963 Topps Gaylord Perry. And I would have bet you up and down that I didn't have it because I was in my room, in my bedroom, looking at cards and I want to complete the Perry run. I need the 63 according to one place that I looked where I track all this stuff. Sure enough, I already had it, got it in the mail. I didn't even realize it until I went to put it in the beast. And I'm like, well, I already have this card in the same bloody grade, no less. And it's very frustrating. And I don't do it a lot, but enough where man, I need to be even tighter on how I track my collection because I should have gotten out of my bedroom and come in here where I have kind of all my major resources. But do you go through a what kind of process do you go through? Card comes to you, John Keating. What do you do with it?
First thing I do, I guarantee I will be buying cards tonight as well, which is I can guarantee you that on a Tuesday night I buy cards. But first thing I do is I sit down at my desk and I log into Beckett OPG, the online price guide, and I don't use it per se for a price guide, but it has my entire inventory in there. And when I say entire inventory, I'm saying hundreds of thousands of cards. Okay. And you and I, unfortunately, today you and I spoke too long about what we wanted to talk about today earlier. So if I'm repeating myself or jumping the gun, too bad. But um, I have the same problem you have with PSA. I'm too deep into Beckett OPG after whatever it is, 12 years at this point that there's no turning around. So Beckett OPG, go there, log in my cards. I chose that Beckett OPG because at the time and probably still now, I feel it has the most diverse database that there is.
Comprehensive, really,
Yeah,
right?
it's got. I have a box over the shoulder. Actually, this box right here that has Broder cards in it or unlicensed stuff. And out of a couple 100,000 cards, maybe 300,000 cards in Beckett OPG, there's maybe 150 that aren't on Beckett, and they're in that box right there. So I put it in there, and then you can see the boxes next to me. I have, either they go in a binder if they're part of the set. The only binder I have right now that is not a complete set. Actually, I have two of them. One's a Yaz one, but one is the 58 tops, and that's down to 16 cards. But usually in a box by a year, I have either a 4-row or a 5-row box per year. And then it gets, you talk about anal, Mike. I have card dividers, the plastic card dividers in my Brother Pete Touch, and I put on there, if it's not already one of the 4,000 different card sets that I have or type cards that I have, I make another one. And then after a while, I go to Amazon, I order more label makers stuff, and I order more card dividers. It's a never ending process.
So how much is Beckett OPG cost wise? Because we
Too
all have to
much.
think
Yeah.
about cost,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because all of these tracker things we're going to talk about, save one. I have one that I used religiously that is free. Well, it does cost money initially, but we'll get to that. What do you pay for Beckett?
Here's the problem, right? So unlike you, I collect. I essentially collect, to quote Dean Gerhardt, everything. Okay, so Beckett has non-sports in there. My 59 Fleer Three Stooges cards that I got from your Chasing Cardboard has football, basketball, hockey, golf, NASCAR. Has it all in there. Okay, so it's a la carte or a la carte where you can just buy baseball or you can just buy football. I, of course, just had baseball for a while, and then I added all the other sports. So it's probably half a G a year, if not more, for all that fun stuff. And you can trade on there, you can sell on there, all that stuff. You know me, I don't like people. I don't want to trade with anybody. So
Right.
I just want to. That's where my card information is, and
But you also can sort through Beckett OPG. OPG stands for Online Price Guide, is basically, and you would argue or you would agree that Beckett Grading Service BGS and Beckett OPG are two very different things. Have
Yep.
really nothing to do with each other. But you can sort by sport, by player. You can search. You can do all kinds of things.
It's a massive spreadsheet / database, right? Like everything else is. It's just, and it's not. Listen, it's clunky. Yeah, it took me a while to get used to it. And one of my pet peeves that maybe we'll talk about is Beckett. And I don't know how PSA works with you, but Beckett could do better at reaching out to some of the customers. If they can see that I have hundreds of thousands of cards in there, why not have some hey girl time with just figure out how it can work better, right? That's my biggest pet peeve is like, let's make this thing better, you know.
And sometimes that's on us because we don't know what we don't know. Like we may not even have unlocked all the secrets and ways to use data that they're giving us.
Good point.
And sometimes that's on us. But right, if they would at least reach out and you could say, hey, I've been trying to do this. And they'll go, oh, we can do that. It does.
Yeah.
You click this button, that button, that button. But if we don't hear from them, it's hard we're not necessarily going to reach out
and truth be told, their customer service is overseas. So there's a communication barrier sometimes as well, which is unfortunate. I'm not talking to a collector or somebody who thinks like a collector. I'm in a call center overseas, which sometimes frustrates people like myself, you know, just because I want to get to the point as quick as possible. I don't want to hear, how was your day, Mr. John? Let's talk, let's do it, and then goodbye, you know. So yeah,
I think a caveat we should have probably done 7 minutes ago is there are a lot of ways to track your collection, and I think which way will work for you depends on a number of factors, including your personality. I think, you know, how you are, how detailed you want to be, how many cards you have. I mean, if you only have a few hundred cards, there might be an easier way to do it than the things that we go through. But John and I each have lots and lots of cards. And so it's so important because you don't want to make the mistake that I made yesterday, ideally, and buy a card twice that you only need one of. I didn't want 263 Topps Gaylord Perry cards, and yet here I have them.
But you can move that if
Sure.
I'm buying 20 commons for my 58 set and 5 of them I already have, then it's not as easy to move them. You know, you could sell them on eBay, but then you're taking a major haircut. You'd be lucky if you got half of what you paid for. I don't think that's the same if you're buying a PSA graded card. I don't think that's the same risk. The ineptitude tax is not the same, I think, for that. So,
but it's still a hassle, and like, oh man, I could have used that money for a card I don't have, right? And so the idea of being diligent in inventorying and tracking your collection, I think, is super important. The Beckett OPG, we'll finish on that, or finish with that by asking you, is there a big difference in the experience from a desktop to a mobile?
Yeah, I struggle with the mobile, and that, you know, I don't think that's an instance of like I haven't unlocked all the secrets yet. I just think it just doesn't work out right. You can look up any card. It's night and day from desktop to mobile app, and it's not even close. I can access certain things, but it could be a lot better. So if I know I'm going hunting, I'll take my laptop and my MiFi with me somewhere. And I've set up at the LCS that way. I've set up at antique stores that way because that's going to be the fewest pinch points for me doing that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So when I get a card, you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you.
I was thinking that, but
right. It's okay. I'm going to tell you anyway.
Okay.
When I get a card, it goes through about 10 different steps before I'm finally able to put it away. The first when I get a card, I go to scan it. I make a scan of the card, just the front. Typically, I don't do front and back.
Can you not do that with your phone though? Can you not scan with your phone nowadays?
No, not the
high enough
quality
res?
scan that I want.
Okay.
So I have a scanner. It's super easy. It's linked to the computer. And then I will go to PSA's set registry, and I will put the card in what I have. Simply by using the serial number or certificate number on the card, certain number, and that's really easy. Ironically, now if I notice it has a certain serial number, I know it's been graded recently, and most likely those scans are in the system. That's been happening a lot more and more lately, and that's front and back, and it's super high quality. It's great. So that's one less step sometimes. But if I have an older slab, it is what it is. And that's all well and good for my PSA set registry. They have an app.
But you forgot a step in there. If it's already registered to somebody else, you have to request liberation for that.
It honestly doesn't happen very often to me.
Okay.
Because I'm usually buying from a dealer who doesn't have it as a personal inventory,
but they get it from someone. And
sure.
Knows, yeah.
But the app is super handy. I mean, you can see that there. I can search my inventory. I can put in a year.
Can you type Perry in, or we didn't do that? That's right.
Yeah,
right.
I did do that.
You typed Gaylord Perry.
No, I put in Perry, honestly, and that still doesn't show up. You notice it goes from 62 to 64.
Okay.
And it'll have the cards all in order. Those are all my cards, scans of them.
Okay.
And
what do they base that search information on? Is that the exact thing that is on the flip? Like the same
typically
vernacular?
Yes.
Okay.
Typically, yes. So but like this, there's a leader's card there, 71. You see that at the top. That's Perry, Gibson, and Jenkins, but not all leaders cards have that descriptor. So you can also do it by card number, year. There's all kinds of pretty much any field you can imagine. But this is what I was using in my room the other night as I turned it off. And the Perry card didn't show up, and I thought it would, and it didn't. I don't have the 63.
Right.
But this is handy at a show. Is it perfect? No, but it's pretty good, right? But the problem is it's only graded cards, and you might be out there wanting to know, what about if I do other grading companies or raw? So that goes to another system. So then once I put it in the PSA set registry, then I add it to my VCP, and I'm going to go ahead.
It's a manual process, right? It's not like you can.
It is
export data,
but it's really not that bad. I'm going to actually show you. Hopefully you can see my screen now with VCP right there.
I don't know you had so many hockey cards in your collection.
Well, this is just what they put on their home screen. So I'm logged in. So I'll go search for a card. You see you've got baseball, basketball, football, hockey, golf, soccer, other sports, TCGs, non-sports. So let's say I acquired a card I don't have. 19. Oh gosh.
Is there a cutoff year-wise if it's vintage?
No.
Okay, so it goes.
They're all in there. You do have to kind of know their language for certain things.
Yes.
That's kind of important.
It's unforgiving. It's not intuitive, right? Because Beckett is, if you get something, if you type in everything but the first letter of the last name, if you write in Reggie Action, it'll say nothing found.
Well, let's try that. Reggie Action. And it's spinning wheel of death here. No results, right?
Exactly,
so
right.
So
did you spell it? I couldn't. You didn't spell it ACTION, did you?
Thank you. Yes.
That's unimpressive.
So I got a 53 Topps Warren Spawn yesterday. So let's say I did that. Well, I put in 19. I want to put in as few things as possible.
Right.
Usually the card number is great. It'll narrow it down pretty quick. If you put the year and the card number, there's not as many sets. But so here's the Topps Warren Spawn. I can go through this. Okay. Everything that equals 1953 in Spawn. I click on it. And what this does very quickly is here's the card. Yep. That's that's the same, not my card, but that's the card I got. I can if I just want to see like comps, right? Sure, I want to know, what do I want to pay?
Oh, that's nice. And do they have CSG or?
So they have PSA,
Okay.
SGC, CSG,
Great.
BGS, and then
Yeah.
GAI even.
Sure. Right.
PSAQ is like autographed basically,
Okay.
or some type of qualifier, OC, or
Yep.
so a
MK,
6
whatever.
here would be a 6 OC, a 6 PD, a 6 MC,
Okay.
right?
Well, that's fun.
So let's say I got one, and I did yesterday. I just put add to my collection, or I could even put add to my want list here.
Mm-hmm.
And I could say, well, I want it in any of these, and what it'll do is email you. You can see right here, email when new listings arrive. So it's out there searching, and if it sees one, hey, this meets your want list criteria, it'll shoot you an email. So,
Okay.
and that search is not just eBay, but also all the auction houses and all that.
Well, that's handy.
So I'm adding, this card, and I can choose one of the grading companies, right? Whichever one I have. In this case, I have PSA, and I got a 4.
You can even write where you got it too, right? If you wanted to, with the notes and what.
Yeah, you can do notes.
Yeah.
See how it says price cannot be blank. So if somebody gifted you a card, you actually have to put in 0.00.
Okay.
And then you can create collection groups within your own collection. I have autographs separated from just non-autographed cards.
So what happens when you're at a card show and you want to access this? This is the desktop version. What's your experience with?
So when you go to vcp.com on a web browser on your phone, it pulls up the entire web page.
So it's strictly a way. It's not an app. You just have to go on your browser,
which is good. I'm okay with that because it gives me everything I would want to look at anyway.
Right. Yep.
And so, especially for comps, that's what I mainly use it for at a show. And then when you go to, so that's if you wanted to add it, and you would hit add and it would be there. But then you have your my collection, my want list. So let's just go to my collection. It gives you values of all your cards. It's updated constantly. I can just pull up my collection, and it gives me a list of all the cards that I have input in here in my collection, no matter what the slab. I love that I can put my SGC cards here. I can put, which I don't have many, but I do have a few. And, here in the search bar, I can search my collection for what Mike Trouts do I have? What Mickey Mantles do I have? I can just put Mantle and it'll pull up everything. So if this ever finishes loading here,
it's the same setup as Beckett almost. I mean, yours is a little fancier. I like the way the interface is, but same thing, switch by player that you have and all that.
Yeah. So if I pull up Perry here and I want to sort it by, I can sort by year, set, whatever. So ironically, that 63 is not in here either, although it should be. Maybe I just literally haven't put it in my collection yet. Maybe that's one of the problems, but it is super easy. It's not cheap. Let me go back to the homepage.
So time is an issue here too, because you can, like I said, if you have tens of thousands of cards or thousands of cards moving from platform to platform, you have to account for your time.
When I started this VCP thing 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, I just grabbed a stack and I would put them in. I didn't try to do it all in one sitting. It was ridiculous. So, but I kind of enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed that you can be bored with anything and you can find joy in anything. I think, especially with cards, right? It definitely tedious. I'm not saying it's super easy, but it's also, once I did it, I'm like, okay, good. Now it's like keeping your room clean versus having to clean your disastrous room.
Exactly. Right.
It's like, keeping this up is not difficult. Although apparently I need to go add a 63 tops.
Yeah, right. Apparently buying's hard for you. Keeping it, maintenance isn't hard, but buying is.
There are negatives to VCP, and that is, especially if you're starting ultra modern or modern, you're going to find cards that don't exist. They do not have. It's not as comprehensive a database as Beckett will be.
And just so you know, Beckett, with the pricing when they put in there, a lot of they'll say NA for not applicable for modern stuff, and that could go on for a year or so until they finally put the numbers in there.
And I wouldn't use it for, I use it for comps for VCP, but I'm not really concerned about what the value of my collection is any given day. It's not that big a deal, but it's kind of nice that they do it, but I'm not.
Right. Well, I mean,
So
there's no such thing. It's not as we say always. It's not a menu. It's a guide. So
right.
You're not going to get people laugh at the Beckett prices, and then one gang that I know of uses TCDB religiously, trading card database, and they love it. I haven't been able to figure it out yet, and of course I don't have any incentive to do so with all my cards over at Beckett OPG, but real easy to trade. They have a pretty comprehensive database as well. A lot of pictures there, and it's user supported and editable. I think they're a lot more responsive. I don't know how it works, but you have a set that's not on there. You can get that set on there pretty quick, from what I gather, which helps. So I've used that a lot for my podcast in the past for information and for pictures, because the galleries are great. You can just click. Beckett's got the gallery as well, but sometimes they'll say no photo. So TCDB, I think, works for a lot of people. I don't know what their mobile situation is, and I know that they just integrated with Sport Lots recently, and that apparently caused a lot of issues at first because of trying to tie all that stuff together. But people do swear by TCDB, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's not one I have any experience with, honestly, other than the occasional look at it for information, like you said. But again, I know people just like you that swear by it, and so the great thing is you can try these. Most of these things have free trials.
Yeah, take it for a spin.
Take it for a spin, see if you like it.
So one thing that we got to remember here, Mike, is that we're not necessarily representative of the majority of the collectors in the hobby anymore, right?
Okay.
And the kids these days are at a tremendous advantage. Their minds are essentially computers, so they're able to, when I was in school, we took wood shop and the gals took home ec. Now, everybody's growing up with a computer, so I'm a little slow on the uptake, but the amount of storage and data that modern collectors can hold in their heads is amazing to me, and differentiate between parallels and stuff like that. I think it's great. But we're also talking about people that perhaps their PC is in the hundreds of cards instead of the tens of thousands, or dozens, true. Right? So they use different tools than maybe you and I would use. And I know you have a couple of those.
I mean,
you want to talk about
the big boys like Card Ladder and Market Movers, right? Those are tools that I actually have friends that do collect like us that use Card Ladder, for example, and they really like it. It's a great way for them to get comps. So
the first time I went on Card Ladder, I typed in 1950 Jackie Robinson Bowman. Card was not on the database, so
you were like, all right, that's enough for me.
Yeah. If you're starting from descending order, then I'm not part of that. You're never going to get around to putting the cards in that I collect and enjoy. So
but from a modern, ultra modern standpoint, I hear it's pretty good. Is every card in there? No, of course not. But
I would think it would have to be easy and good, meaning easy, very intuitive, and ease to move around the platform. Because again, many modern collectors, their inventory is completely liquid, right? And it's always moving. So 6 months from now, your top 50 cards could be 35 or 40 of them that are different than what you had 6 months prior. That's just the nature of the modern collector. And Card Ladder kind of insinuates that people are climbing ladders, trading up, and all that stuff. That's something I always found ironic. So different types of collectors collecting different things. It only makes sense for them to branch out into more vintage cards and stuff like that. But what has been the influence, do you know of, from PSA? Because PSA owns Card Ladder, right?
I think that was more to get more accurate pricing linked to their registry.
Okay.
So that when you see your inventory, it's at least more accurate than it used to be, which was terrible, by the way. and nobody ever used what PSA said a value of a card was. Now it's a little more APR, auction prices realized driven. So I wanted to show you this because I discovered that, yes, I do have this card in there. It does have Gaylord Perry listed as one of the players on the card, but this is I have a PSA 6. So when I pull it up, another thing that's cool is it shows you kind of historically how the cards changed in value.
Right.
And you can change it from.
PSA does that as well, though, right?
What does?
PSA does that as well. I think that's on the PSA website as well. The same thing.
It might.
Fun graphs like that.
But then you can see all the recent sales, whether it was buy it now or auction,
right.
Clean Sweep, PWCC, all of them are in here. And so that's pretty cool.
What are you paying a year for that?
I think it's like $180 a year.
That's not bad.
I think, and if you pay annually, it's slightly different.
Right.
We used to have a promo code through Bench Clear. I don't think it still exists, where you could get 13 months for the price of 12, but I don't know that I don't even want to give it out because I don't even A, I don't remember what it was, and B, I doubt it's active as a promotion anymore. But the other thing so I put it in my data, I put it in PSA, I get a PSA card, put it in PSA registry, I scan it, I put in all the data. When did I buy it? How much did I pay for it? I do the same thing on VCP, although it doesn't have purchase date. You can put that down in the notes, but it doesn't have a field for that that you can sort by.
Right.
And then the piece de resistance for me is to go. I totally.
We both spoke French in this episode, which is
mine was
absolutely amazing.
Much worse than yours, but then I go to kind of, if you were to say you have to only use one thing, Mike, this would be it. And that's where I use, good old Microsoft Excel. This was the free thing I was talking about, but you have to buy Excel now. If you own Excel, and what's great about Excel is you can make it say whatever you want. This is a spreadsheet that I print to take with me because I never want to rely on internet working. And so this is literally a list of every card that I want in my collection. This is Mike's master want list. It's currently 691 cards.
Okay.
And so it's a lot, but it's everything from different 5-star autographs that I want, future Hall of Fame rookies, Dick Perez autograph kind of things. Like if I found a 94 Diamond King Griffey Jr., I would know, I need that one,
Right.
And
the problem with that is you can't access that in real time. You have to prepare yourself.
Yeah, I have to print it and take it with me. You're right.
So if you're on the highway and you see a squirrel, aka an LCS,
and that's happened to me where I've bought a card not knowing, I don't know if I have this. I'll just go ahead and buy it. Usually it's a cheapy thing. And
what if you were to use Dropbox?
What's that?
What if you were to use Dropbox and you can
put this as a Google Doc?
Yeah, but you can access that. I don't work with Google as much as I do with like Dropbox, but you can have your spreadsheet saved on the Dropbox.
That's true.
And then you can access it. If you want, I can show you what I do. Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to figure out how to do this here. Maybe I should grab my phone. I'll grab my phone instead. This could be a two-parter. Let me present real quick. All right. So I'll show you what I do here on Beckett.
Okay.
So here's my collection, right? These are my 58 tops needs, all 16 of them. Okay. So what I do is I simply do this. I hit print collection, save as a PDF, right? So it's right there. Bam. And then again, there's so many steps to this dang thing, but then I save it, right? So then I just airdrop it to my phone. And the cool thing about this is, again, there's some steps involved, but the cool thing is, I see if I could bring that up. So that's my PDF. And then on your phone, I can just check stuff off right there. So that's my 58 tops needs, right? And if I'm at a table, I have it, all that stuff. I can just edit it and put a line through it right there. Now that's great and all, but again, you need to be prepared, right? And I've actually thought about doing the old school, since I'm still working on 67 back sets, just putting
Right.
together a page for each one, the simple, cells on a spreadsheet with the numbers. It's real easy to do, obviously, because you can repeat them real quickly and all that stuff. And just, do I start carrying a small binder around with all that stuff? And that's not just the sets, it's the regular sets, but that's stuff like you know, all the other uh, oddball sets that have been around throughout the years. So, that's something I've contemplated with going back to paper, like you're saying you do, and having a master book with my needs in it. But again, that's something that takes time,
Yeah, and
and
if it's
effort.
tons of pages, you're having to print that every so often, even if it's only a few times a year. It's like,
Well,
oh
no,
my,
not really. Like I said, if I have on Excel, you can make it real easy. All the cells are the same way, numbered, a row 1 through 20, 21 through 40, et cetera, or 1 through 50, whatever.
right,
You can just scratch those off as you go, right?
sure,
You just it's like an SAT. You fill it in, and then you're done, right?
yeah,
And you don't need to replenish. You can see, you can physically fill those out as you go along. And I see a lot of that still. I know that's the way it used to be way back in the day. Everybody carried lists, right? And I still see it a lot. But then again, I'm hunting in a different field than most people are. I'm going to the tables that have the binders and binders and binders of each year and each sport, and people are set building. So that's great for set builders, but not a lot of people anymore are set builders, because you can buy the things anywhere you want. So that works for those folks. Since I'm set building, maybe it works for me, but otherwise I send myself PDFs and I just scratch off my needs as I go along.
yeah. And I'm probably a little more old school. I do like having, again, I never know if I can pull it up or whatever. Just having the list. I may not use it the whole show,
Right.
but the fact that I have it makes me just have a redundant
Right.
system of redundancy set up so that I'm not really worried about it.
You should put that on your night table, that list.
Right, something like that. That
Okay.
And as we finish up here, you know, again, reiterating the point that there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, and you just have to decide as a collector what makes sense for you. It could be a combination of the things that John and I talked about. We didn't cover everything anyway. There's even more things out there than we talked about. This is meant to say, hey, have a system, or I think we want to leave you with, have a system so that you don't, so that you know what you have and you don't buy stuff twice, and or minimize the possibility of that happening. None of us can memorize all of our cards, unless I had 10, oh, I've got that one.
I think we're I've spoken about technology before. I think we're in the 90s as far as technology. And what I mean is there's a lot of exciting things happening. And most of them will not be around in a couple of years, whether it's databases or any of the other things, right? Because the secondary market is where the money is, and people want to take advantage of that. So it's an exciting time. There's a lot of technology, and maybe the industry standard. We have industry standards in my business. You never know which ones those are going to be. So maybe it hasn't been developed yet. Maybe it's in the works. Maybe it's an existing setup that will, be like Apple. And then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, everybody wants to use it after having been around for many, many years. They've retooled themselves, and maybe somebody will come up with something that everybody has to use. But like you said, it's, there's left-handers, right-handers, people go with their feet. We all use different tools. So, you know, there is no perfect solution out there yet. That's for sure.
That's true. But I do agree with you that, especially from the boom with all the money coming into the hobby, there have been some great innovations. And I think in terms of tracking and things you can do, when I hear about something new, I like to go check it out. I like to see, hey, is this a better widget? Have somebody come up with something. What I found is that each platform has its own unique things that make it cool. And then they all have different fleas.
Right.
And so you're like, well, which fleas can I live with biting me versus what does it give me on the pros side, and just weigh those out for yourself. It is a never ending. There's no, like you said, perfect system yet.
Are you an early adopter by nature?
No, but I'm an early trier outer.
Okay.
If that's actually a thing.
Because I think that's also perhaps a generational thing as well.
Yeah, I'm willing to try something new.
Right.
I'm not necessarily going to convert my whole system over to it until it's kind of a proven commodity,
Right. Well, it seems like things have to get easier. So hopefully that's the case. Things are, inevitably they're supposed to get easier as we get smarter here on Earth. So hopefully that'll be the case here.
Well, I don't know how you feel, but when I get a card, I enjoy going through the process of inboarding that card into my collection.
Yep.
I really savors, maybe not the right word. It's not a drag to me. It is not anything other than I'm excited to have a new card, and I get to go put it in all these different places where I use multiple systems because certain things give me certain things that I like, but they're not completely comprehensive. And so, it is what it is. You may find one that just, hey, I only need this and I'll use this. Right. I know people that only use Excel. Good for them, you know? So
yeah, and it all depends on what you're doing. Like I said, I have a lot of friends that like to trade, which is great. I'm sitting right here in front of me is a couple, probably $200,000 doubles, commons that I wish I could get rid of. I should probably do that on TCDB, but I'm too lazy. So yeah, whatever you're
or something.
Yeah, but whatever you need to do, just find what's right for you for now.
Well, if you have questions or you have some great idea that you use that you want to share with everybody, please put it in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you guys about your thoughts, and thanks for tuning in to another Hobby Think Tank.
Who's that right there before we go?
Is that Jimmy Fox?
La Jouet, French word, third nap. French word of the day.
Little nap. He's pretty nappy. Hey, John, thanks for joining me today.
See you. Happy collecting out there, folks.
Keep collecting. See you guys later.